Hello, if you've been before, welcome back. If not, hi, my name is David. I make videos talking about media that I want to talk about. This is my reading wrap up of the books that I read in the month of January. Oh my god, it's a new year. I'm joined here by my lovely friends Bunger from last month and our new part of the family, Figment. I am recording with the clasp on my microphone broke, so while I wait for a new microphone, I'm just going to be holding it in my hand like this. And that's absolutely fine, right? Maybe it's a little loud. Maybe I should put it this way. I don't know. We'll see once I edit it. Before I forget, I also want to note that this year I want to start doing something new with my rating system, which is I will be incorporating quarter ratings as well. So I used to just do, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, etc., 4.5 to 5, etc. I don't think I'm going to use the sixes anytime soon. We'll see how it goes further in the year. But like fives are definitely like at the very top. And I wanted to incorporate quarter rankings as well. So 4, 4.25, 4.5, 4.75, 5. Just to get more nuance in terms of this book needs a little bit more, could have reached better. This book, not so good, but there are some aspects. It just gives a little bit more nuance and separates books a little bit more when I'm overall looking at it, because there are books that are like really good, but I just didn't connect with them. That I feel like, and then also books that I liked but had some issues with them. Then I would usually just put them at like 4, 3.5 or something like that. But the quarter rating adds a bit of nuance to what I'm trying to say. And so I'm going to try that for this year to see how that changes things up. You know what I mean? As usual with these reading wrap-ups, I have recorded the first half of the month already, and now I'm recording the latter half of the month. So I don't believe I set up a bit. Sorry, I don't believe I set up a bit with my past self. We'll see. I'll see when I edit. That's fine. I have so much caffeine inside myself, so I'll see you soon. Hello, future me. The first book that I read in 2026 in January is Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dugan. I didn't expect to read this book. I didn't plan to do it, but I was reorganizing some of my shelves, and this is a book that I had read like late high school. And so I wanted to revisit it. And it's about a girl, hot dog girl, who works at this amusement park, and she is a hot dog girl there, and she has friends there as well. And all of a sudden, the amusement park is shutting down, and she feels really bad about that. She tries to scheme a way to make sure that the amusement park stays up. And there's also a lot of drama as well. And so it says a reread. I read this when I was in high school. It's young adult. It's not for me. It's a 3.5 out of 5. It's not for me, and I don't need this type of story anymore. So I can clear it from my shelf as well, which I'm very happy about, to give more space for more books. The central conceit of like the amusement park dying and she's trying to save it is there, but the vast majority of the story is her dealing with a bunch of drama with her best friend, whom she may or may not be attracted to this guy that she definitely has a crush on, to the guy's girlfriend. They're all here. These are all the characters. And it's very like a lot of drama, a lot of sappy YA drama. That was kind of fun. It was kind of fun to read that, and it's great emotion too as well. It really made me feel things for the characters. But this is very much like YA, not for anymore for me. I guess I'm glad I reread it to be able to say like, yeah, this is for someone else. The next book that I read was Best Offer Wins by Marisa Kashino. This is a book of the month selection for December that I didn't get to read in December, that I finally got to now within the first week. And so this is a thriller. I gave it a 3.75 out of 5. This is about a Japanese American wife living in DC who is trying to find her perfect dream house so that she can move out of her like rinky dinky apartment with her husband and have children and have the life that she thinks that she deserves. And it's about all about her finding this really beautiful, perfect house for herself and scheming to find a way to get it, despite her not having really good buying power. Like it's a bunch of different bids that she has to fight against. I don't know anything about the housing market, so there was a little leap of like knowledge that I had to learn about when I was reading this. It is a thriller, and I think, well, it's labeled as comedic thriller. I think it should have just been a dark comedy in total, because it is getting a little comedic towards the beginning, but then the latter half gets more thrillery, and that I feel did not serve the story well. Because so like the wife, she is doing stuff to try to enamor the current owners to sell to her, and when that fails, she tries to do blackmail, and then that bad stuff happens there. I think that it needed more absurdity and comedy throughout the entire thing, because she ends up killing people to get the house, and I feel like, hey, this is really absurd. This is a very absurd goal and want. Maybe we have more absurdity within the story in and of itself to make it even better, because it was very serious about what it wanted to do. But I feel like with this type of story, her really wanting this house, needed a little bit more absurdity in the writing and what happens to just make it feel lighter. Overall, there was some great writing. I really liked the prose and the way that everything flowed. I could really like feel for her at times, and it was a fun ride. But overall, it just felt kind of bad, because I was like, why are we putting these people through these things? Why are we doing all this just for like a house? Go somewhere else, move somewhere else. Why are you so zeroed in on like the picture perfect house? To be able to sell that, it needs to be more absurd, and that's just what I was missing from this story. The next book that I read was The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Kane Chronicles trilogy that I am rereading. This is the next series that I'm rereading after rereading Percy Jackson OG. After I do this trilogy, then I'll start getting the Heroes of Olympus series. But I wanted to revisit this trilogy because it's been a hot minute, and most people don't really talk about the King Chronicles. I kind of get why. No, I'm just it is a 3 out of 5 for me. I got it from the library, and I found that so it's Carter and Sadie, who are siblings who find out that their parents and their family and they themselves have power drawn from Egyptian myth and Egyptian mythology, and it's set within the same world as Percy Jackson, but the magic system is a little different. The god system is a little different, which I did kind of enjoy. I do like whenever magic systems drain your energy, and you have to like be careful not to overextend yourself, or else you drain your energy like that. The lore or like the mechanics of the actual magic system feel a little loosey goosey, and I feel like I know that in the next 2 books they will be more concrete as to what it is. The characters were fun. I mean, I liked Cardi and Sadie, and then all the like surrounding characters were also like pretty memorable, and so I thought that was a really good job throughout doing that. But overall, I feel like there was a lack of communication that you usually see in young adult stories that felt very obtrusive. Is that the right word here? Because they're always like, okay, we're gonna tell you, Card and Sadie, the truth, but we have to be somewhere else, or not yet, or wait, and it's always there's so many times in this story where they're told not now is not the right time, and I feel like the stuff could have been fed to us easier and less obtrusively than the miscommunication, lack of communication. Like, let's talk. We can talk about this later, and then there is no later. And yeah, I guess they have to learn on their feet to do stuff. But when they do have to do that, then it's like, why are they always succeeding? Where's the failure? at times as well. Like, yeah, sometimes Sadie isn't able to open a fucking portal, but also it's like, how does she know how to do that in the first place? There's some things that felt like it needed a little bit more time to flesh out and better structure. It didn't need to be as long as it did, but I guess that's just sort of the template for these types of stories, and I hope that it gets better as we continue with the series. So I will be continuing it in the future months. And then the next story that I read, I just realized is the highest rated story so far that I've talked about. Not in this month, but like so far of these 1, 2, and then 3. This is a 4 out of 5. It's Among the Imposters by Margaret Peterson Haddix. It's book 2. Book 2 of the Shadow Children series, and it is following the character of the first story, Among the Hidden, Luke, posing as Lee in a housing school for shadow children like him, and it's like a boarding school, and he has to figure out how to live there and study there, and keep his head down and not draw attention to himself being an illegal child. Then he learns about some conspiracies, and it's a really good continuation of the this is the second book of the series, and I know that it sets up something for the third book, and I think I remember reading the third book and like being very afraid about it. I don't remember why, but either way, this had real dark academia vibes to it before dark academia was like a marketing point. Cause like, here, let me bring this up. This is like a boarding school that he's in, and you can also see like, do you see the silhouette of like a man here? Like the shoulders, shoulders and like the face and like the body. And then this door is a door to the outside. That's like, I don't know if it's spoilers. It's hard. Yeah, it talks about it. He discovers a door on the outside. He learns that there's a conspiracy happening. There's a bunch of other shadow kids there as well, and there might be an imposter there as well, an imposter of an imposter. And I think that for what it was a really good conflict, because we have Luke trying to be a normal human boy, and he's never had that experience because he's been trapped inside his house all his life because he's a shadow child. And so, because of that, we also get some really good world building that feels very naturally dispensed to us because we're learning with him as he's learning it how the world is. And that's always a really easy but smart writing tool is, the character stand-in, your main character is learning the world as we are. And I think that's a really smart and easy way to write this type of story. And I will continue with the third book in the next month. The next book that I read is What Stalks the Deep by T. Kingfisher. It's a third book and the final book so far of the Sworn Soldier series. I've read What Moves the Dead and What Feasts at Night in prior months. Finally was able to finish this at the beginning of the year, and it's a 4.75 out of 5. I wanted so much from it, and it did deliver. It did deliver so well. It was a great continuation of it felt more of a sequel to the first book than the second book felt like it. You know what I mean? I do think that the second book was the weakest. And I think that is very interesting, the direction chosen for the element of horror. When you're watching something that's horror, you are like thinking about, okay, what is this element of horror? Is it ghosts? Is it aliens? Is it sci-fi stuff? Is it whatever, zombies? In the first two books, they had somewhat similar elements of horror. We had zombie mushrooms, and then the second book it was a folklore monster, and those two seem very similar to me in terms of groundedness within the world. And this one, it was really interesting because they chose to go a cosmic horror standpoint, and I was really happy with that. It's very well balanced and very well established within the world, because it's a Shoggoth that is part of this if you know, you know. It's Lovecraftian, and I was really happy that it was something like that. I was just very surprised that it was not going like a folk horror route and more like a cosmic folk horror route. I really liked how it was building up and then the ending, but the middle part felt a little weak in my opinion. I felt like the tone changed a bit, and it really did not help setting up for the rest of the story. I feel like the middle did not slow down, but definitely the tone was not what I wanted. However, the horror elements, with the way that it's written and the subtle ways that they convey horrifying imagery, is so good. It's so good. I remember early reading this book. This is what the story is about. Easton is called by their friend Denton, who they met in the first book. They're called to America to help Denton find his lost cousin, his missing cousin. And the last time that his cousin was seen was going into a mine. And mines are definitely scary. And the way that one of those letters was written, uh, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And so I was really happy with this. It did not reach the heights that I wanted. And it's not, so this series overall, the Sworn Soldier series, really good writing. It didn't hit the highs that I wanted it to, but it was definitely a really well written horror series. And so I'm very glad that I was finally able to finish that within the year. The next book that I read is also a book of the month. I'm going to switch up how I do my book of the months for this year. I'm going to try to read the book of the months early in the month rather than later, so I don't have another repeat of Best Offer Wins. So I have Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. And this one, okay, it is a 4 out of 5. I did enjoy myself, but it was also annoying. So it's about the Anatomy of an Alibi. These two women, one who is married and one who is somewhat poor, learn about each other because the woman's husband, she thinks it's complicated. It's so complicated to talk about. The women, the woman and the wife switch places one night so that the woman can be the wife because the wife is always tracked by the husband. So the wife can be free to look at what her husband's doing. She thinks that he's doing something bad, and she wants to find evidence of wrongdoing so that she can get safely divorced from him because she doesn't want to get married anymore. And the woman who's pretending to be the wife pretends to be the wife so that the man tracks her and thinks that his wife is doing stuff. Complicated stuff. Once we get into the weeds, it gets even more complicated because all of a sudden, the next day, the husband turns up dead. Someone killed him, and I was so enraptured. I was so enraptured by the mystery and the characters and who killed him and why and stuff like that. But overall, it was so annoying because it was just a bunch of white collar criminals versus blue collar criminals that are all white, almost all white. Some characters in the blue collar criminals are not white, but most all of them are white. And it's set in Louisiana, and I was like, all right, I get it. There was different point of view characters. The woman and the wife point of view characters. The husband in 10 years prior was also a point of view character, and then the husband's lawyer partner, because the husband's also a lawyer, he's dead now, a lawyer. He didn't feel like he didn't do anything. It was a good character. He was a fun character. I cared for him, but he didn't really do anything. But he did. It just didn't feel like it because it didn't have that big of an impact because he was discovering things around the same time that other people were discovering things. So it didn't feel like he was. I mean, he wasn't useless, but it definitely felt like that. But I did like Aubrey, the woman, not the wife. The wife is, oh my god, Camille. I didn't care for her. I didn't care for her or the husband. Um, uh, but Aubrey and Hank were really fun. But yeah, it was just really complicated, and I was very glad that I was reading it because able to hear it. If like me just talking about it right now is like I'm getting lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? And it was very complicated. But satisfying up until a point when we actually got the reveal of what happened. Multiple different types of reveals, and it was so I didn't like it. I didn't like the killer, you know, because it didn't. I feel like it didn't fully lay the groundwork to be able to know who the killer is by the end of it. So I don't know if it was a mystery or not, but it's definitely like a thriller ish. And I was entertained. I was entertained, and it sucks. I don't like that I liked this book, unfortunately, but I did, and good on it for making me care about some of the characters and actually be invested in this crazy ass story. It was crazy. The next book that I read in the month of January, also reread, also finishing up a series, is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare, book 3 of the Infernal Devices. I remember, so when I was reading this series for the first time, Clockwork Angel and Clockwork Prince had come out already, and I was in the middle of reading Mortal Instruments, and this book had not yet been published. And so I read the first 2 books and had to wait until this book was published. And then I also had to wait for it to arrive at a library for me to get it. So when I eventually read the 3rd book for the first time, I didn't remember anything. So I'm very glad I was finally able to revisit it. And it's a really, I felt when I first read it, remembering it, that there was a big jump in time between the 2nd and 3rd book, but there isn't. I don't know why I thought that. Anyways, this is a 4.75 out of 5 for me. Almost really good. The things that are the highlight of the story are the highlight for a reason. The characters, the character arcs, the relationships, everything was amazing and beautifully written. I absolutely adore the love triangle between Will, Jem, and Tessa. I think is one of the best written love triangles ever, and point blank period. And I was very happy because I knew what was going to happen, but it was still really interesting to see the building blocks leading towards it, and then the reveals and the sadness and everything like that. The writing was very emotional. I almost cried 2 times, specifically in moments between Jem and Will. Moments between Jem and Will are when I almost cried. I don't know why. Moments between Will and Tessa and then Jem and Tessa are also really beautiful, but Will and Jem, those hit me hard. Maybe because they got a little gay with it. I don't know. But it was very emotional. All those were amazing. However, the one thing I did enjoy from like the first, honestly, just the first book, the Automata, Mortamon, whatever his name is, and the Automata that are killing people. Very cool, very interesting, very terrifying as well. I wish it was pushed even more, and I didn't get this here. There was definitely moments of the Automata attacking, but they didn't have the menace that I felt from the first book. That I just needed more uncanniness. I needed more scary things in this because otherwise they just felt like random demon number 46. You know what I mean? I think that the main conflict of the entire series, that being of Mortmain, whatever his name is, and the Automata ended quickly, too quickly. And I feel like for a trilogy like this, the way that it was finished, good, really, 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 really good. I really liked it and really good build up for it. That, if you know what I mean. But it felt too quick and too easy of an ending for this conflict. And I feel like that conflict was shafted in favor of the character stuff. Now, that's not entirely a bad thing, but I think that there should have been more space for that conflict. And no one would have complained about this book being even larger than it is, right? It's like 500 pages. The text is pretty big as well, but also it's like everyone would still love it if it was just maybe 50 pages more, and we had a little bit more conflict, resolving the conflict between Mortmain and the Automata, especially more things with the Automata. But the things that were really good about it were obviously the character stuff. And so that definitely hit very well with the writing. And so I was really happy that I'm finally able to finish this series. There was when I remember in, because I was on like the Tumblr, I wasn't on the Tumblr fandom spaces. No, I was on the Facebook fandom pages, spaces that screenshotted things from Tumblr and put it on Facebook. I was in that world. But there was one that I remember seeing because I was in the fandom spaces of Moral Instruments, Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, unfortunately, John Green books for some reason, Star Wars sometimes, Disney sometimes, whatever. A lot of different Hunger Games, big aspect of that. Divergent, those fandom spaces, right? I remember seeing a meme of this book. That was when this book came out. It was finally published. It was like me finally, the text, me finally finishing Clockwork Princess, and it was Frodo from Lord of the Rings at the very end of the movie when he like kills the ring, and he's like, finally, it's done, and he's all tired and like burnt and stuff, and like, yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I felt reading this book, this series, because it was not a slog, definitely a long way to go, but it was a really amazing story, and probably I honestly probably would say better than Sworn Soldier, unfortunately, for the impact of it. Um, but yeah, no, this was a really good series, and I'm really glad I was able to revisit it. I will not read any more Shadowhunter series. I'm so sorry. I do not care. There's so much, and I do not care. Gem is my favorite character, and I know Gem shows up more, but I'm like, I'm done. I need to move on, and there will be other stories, and other people will enjoy the Shadowhunters as they are, and I'm totally fine. I'm not going to reread Mortal Instruments. No, no, no. And finally, in terms of me in the past, I don't know how about me in the future, how much he's read, but this is what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 books so far in the first half. I read Beholder by Ryan LaSala, which is his second horror book. I read The Honeys, loved The Honeys, and so I came in with high expectations. Unfortunately, this book is a 4.25 out of 5. I just emotionally, personally, I didn't connect with this story. However, has really good aspects to it. I do think that some of the front-facing part of the story, like the first 100 or so pages, felt haphazardly built. The world really didn't feel real. It wasn't until as we kept going that I actually like felt things come into place. But I really like the characters. I really like Dom and Ethan, I think it's how to pronounce him. I really like their characters, really like their relationship, because a lot of times I've seen this is very well done in fantasy, science fiction, horror stories where you have the main character who's gay have another guy who's gay there, and they're interacting. You do expect them, you have that expectation of them getting together, and it doesn't shy away from that. It's like, yeah, we know that they're going to get together at some point. That's not the main focus of the story, which I really enjoy. It's just an aspect of like, yeah, eventually these two will get together. I like that aspect a lot. So what this is about Ethan, who is an orphaned man in New York, who goes to a party, and he hides in the bathroom, and all of a sudden he hears horrible noise coming from the party, and he tries to leave the bathroom, but then the other guy, Dom, appears and says, "Do not leave the bathroom." And then he stays in the bathroom as he hears the party goers tearing each other apart and dying horribly. And then he opens the door and everything's dead. Everyone's dead and bloody, and he has to figure out what is happening. Turns out that this is, I don't know if it's like it's not a retelling, it's a retooling, I believe is the right term for this, for The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, I think it is. There's a quote at the very beginning from The Yellow Wallpaper. Yeah, Charlotte Perkins Gilman. There are things in that paper that nobody knows but me or ever will. I read the Yellow Wallpaper when I was in high school, so I know a little bit more about it. And yeah, this is a retooling of it, as if, what if some wallpaper has been imbued with the eldritch being of beauty that wants to take over the world. I love that. Love that. However, knowing about eldritch horrors, because this is a cosmic horror, knowing about eldritch horrors and stuff like that, I feel like it needed more grounding within the world. Like, for example, in What Stalks the Deep, the Shoggoths were explained as being originally a form of jellyfish, that ancient jellyfish, that sort of evolved into this Shoggoth type of creature. It's not an actual Shoggoth from like Lovecraft, like cosmic horror, no, but it still serves as it. So it's basically the same thing, but just more grounded in the reality. Here, I feel like because this is an eldritch horror, I needed more backing within the world. I needed more lore. And I don't mean like I need to understand the entire thing about it, but I need to know about like cults, what was being worshipped, and what are like artifacts and stuff like that. It needed more background in the world, and it could just be subtle things as well. But I felt like if it's an original idea and it's really really good, but it needed a bit more grounding within this world to make it feel real as a cosmic horror in the story. Does that make sense? Overall, however, the way that it's used is really amazing and really terrifying as well. And there are very subtle lines that happen as well. I also compare it to What Stalks the Deep, where it was just one line of something. I'm like, no, hated that, in terms of that was really good horror. You know what I mean? And I just needed more horror as well. I'm not sure how Goodreads notes it as, but I do think that is a YA horror. But overall, I said in my Goodreads review that the sum of the whole is greater than the parts, because the sum of the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's it. There's a lot of things being juggled here as well that do coalesce into like a coherent thing, but it does take some time. So it is a little bit of a slow burn-ish type story. It's not slow at all. Just like trying to wrap your head around it, it gets a little slower. But overall, I did enjoy it. I think it's a great book. Not as good as The Honeys. And so unfortunately, it is a victim of high expectations from me from that. But I think that the themes are very original. The horror, this is a very unique and original horror story. And so, and very queer forward as well, which I always like. Ryan LaSala is an amazing gay writer, and I really enjoy him and his writing. And I have Dead of the Summer to read. I'll probably read it in summer. I'm not fully sure when I'll get to it, but definitely soon, because this really hit a scratch that I really needed from horror these days. And yeah, that's so far what I've read in the first month. I'll turn now to future me, who probably has a bit less books to talk about. I'm jealous. Memories as to when I used to have a clasp on my microphone, but it broke. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. The next book that I read in the month of January is The Hexologists by Josiah Bancroft. This was a little fun thing. There was a sale going on at Barnes & Noble that I had bought Death in the Caldera and Blood Over Brighthaven, which I read last year in November, I believe, and the sale was in the summer. And during that time, I had also seen the Hexologist on sale as well, and I bought it because my friend over at Jessica's library card, Jessica, talked about really enjoying this series, and so I was really excited to see it. So I got it, and I didn't realize once I got home, I realized, hey, the book that I bought was actually the second book. So it took some time to get the first book actually in my hands, which is this one. It's a really nice green cover. Ooh. And this is a 4 out of 5 for me. It's a great fantasy. It's about the Hexologists, which is a couple in this fantasy world. Isolde and Warren, Is and War. Isolde is a hexologist, or she knows about hexology, which is a segment. What's the term? A branch of magic that is sort of dying out during this world that's sort of like industrializing more. So she's not one of the only people to use this type of magic, but she's definitely within a dying field. But she uses her magic to solve mysteries and solve crimes, mostly for the people. She specifically does not like working with the royalty. But the story begins when the king wants to throw himself into an oven, and she has to figure out what's happening. And there's blackmail and there's conspiracies. And I was really intrigued going in. However, I will say the language is a little dense. The diction is a little dense, and there were some words that were very had to use context clues. I had to use my what's it called, 5th grade reading knowledge to figure out what some of these words meant and stuff like that. And it's no shame to pull out a thesaurus or a dictionary to understand words. No shame whatsoever. Did want to do that sometimes with some of these words. So at times the prose felt almost overly, I don't want to say overly intellectual, but definitely like, hey, he's kind of showing off how well he has a command of for the English language, which is fine. I think this had a good mix of whimsy and serious moments as well. The world building and like some of the things introduced are somewhat whimsical, but it's treated with great sincerity and seriousness that really painted it in a better light than just straight up whimsy, which I liked a lot. And the magic system, like I said, the hexology was really good. Eventually, Isolde encounters someone who can do all 4 branches. That's the word I was missing, branches. 4 branches of magic, that being hexology, alchemy, wizardry, and necromancy. I believe necromancy and wizardry has been not outlawed per se, but definitely like regulated to death. And then alchemy is definitely like the most popular one, and hexology is dying, not because of anything, it's just no one really does it anymore. But she does encounter someone who can do all 4, and that's super fun, and I really enjoy that moment. It reminded me a lot of Brandon Sanderson. I've only read one Brandon Sanderson, and that was called, I have it on my shelves, also somewhat of a similar name, The Rhythmatist. Hold on a second. So I read this a long time ago. Isolde her magic system. I also liked how in the magic systems here, it's based off of like art. And so I think alchemy was dance, wizardry was language, necromancy was music, and hexology is art. And so she had to draw stuff very quickly. And it reminded me a lot of how the Rhythmatist uses chalk and drawing stuff. But it's been a hot minute since I read this. But I really liked that feeling of like someone like getting down and just quickly drawing stuff, and it's just they're so good at drawing that they do magic. And so that's what I felt from Isolde here. But this is the only Brandon Sanderson I've read and need the sequel. Isolde and Warren's relationship is also a highlight. It's the highlight of the entire book, because this is an established marriage between this straight couple, and it didn't feel like a romance. Like you usually hear about these sort of marriages, and it feels very like forward, like these are man woman gender roles, etc. No, they're very much in love with each other. And Warren is by King, and Isolde is just she's a great character, and I really liked her. And her love for Warren is so comforting and so natural. And Warren's love for her is also so secure and comforting as well. I loved Warren so much. I had thought that he could also do magic, but he doesn't. He doesn't know how to do magic, but he has other attributes himself, and I really enjoyed that. And yeah, honestly, it's a 4 out of 5 because everything was good. Everything is firing off how it should. I just didn't connect to the story as much. It's not a mystery in that you get to figure it out before Isolde does. You're just following Isolde as she goes through the mystery, Isolde and Warren. And so I think that it does what it wants very well. I just didn't connect with the story that much. But it looks like the second book, I have it around here somewhere. I'm reading it next month. Looks like it's going to be a great time. And so I'm looking forward. This is definitely going to be something I talk about in February. The next book that I read in the month of January is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. This it's a 2.25 out of 5. I had read her book, Lady Macbeth, and I really enjoyed that last year. And so, and I'd heard a lot of Ava Reid, and also saw stuff on social media and on the internet that she's really very progressive. She's very woke. She spoke out a lot about free Palestine and fuck guys and stuff like that. And so I really wanted to support her. So I wanted to read more of her. And so from a suggestion, I decided to read A Study in Drowning because people said that they really liked. This is her like flagship out of Maine. I don't know what kind of book this is. It's very popular for her. And I really liked Lady Macbeth. And so I was really excited going into this story. I didn't like it. From the get-go, it felt very contrived because we have the main character, Effie, who's at a school, and she's the only woman enrolled in the architecture department because she wanted to get into the literature department, but they don't accept women there. So she's dealing with misogyny. However, it felt sorry. And then she enrolls and wins a competition to design a new building for her favorite author who wrote a foundational folk story that supports their fantasy kingdom in a war or current struggles with a different fantasy kingdom. Yeah. And then she goes to the author who's dead, his family's house, mansion, and she's supposed to be redesigning a new house for them. And it just felt very contrived. First of all, just as a nitpick that I just could not get behind, she wanted to get into literature. She studied to get into the literature department, but she couldn't get it because of misogyny. So instead, she goes on the second, because in this specific college, it's like literature department is like the number one best department in that university. And so since she couldn't get into the number one, she decided to get into number two, which is architecture. And I feel like she needs a little bit more backing to be able to succeed in that. And also, she didn't like it enough. And then she enrolls into this competition to go to her favorite author's house. And it just felt very contrived into, okay, let's have a woman in a university dealing with misogyny. How do we get her to this building, to this mansion, working with the author? I feel like there's a lot of contrived things here and a lot of obstacles that were not interesting to overcome. And this is also a romance between Effie and Preston. Yes, Preston, who is half one country, half the country that she lives in. And he's also studying the author. And this author who died recently is very important to the nation. And so it's just dealing with stuff like that. I thought that the setting was pretty interesting at times, which is the point 25. The crumbling house was a crumbling mansion. I keep saying it's a house, but it's a mansion manor type building. Interesting, good. I liked how it was implemented. But overall, as I kept reading it, with the contrived story, the somewhat okay romance, and the pretty good setting, I just felt like there was a lot of other books that did things a lot better. And so, but I just will mention them. I'm going to talk about them. So, because it wanted to deal with like academia and misogyny, with her being the only woman in the architecture, and she couldn't get into the literary academy. I suggest Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. That book deals with that aspect a lot better than what we're doing here, because also this book doesn't, maybe in the second book, which I'm not going to read, maybe in the second book it deals with the misogyny and like the obstacles women face in academia, but Blood Over Brighthaven, sorry, does it a lot better in one book. If you want to talk about fairies, because this is dealing with the author, the famous author wrote about the fairy king, and it's a story about the fairy king, and his other stories are also really popular. I don't know. The author's stories helped the kingdom feel connected, which also felt kind of contrived. But whatever. There was not that many things about fairies in general. The fairy king is just like the title Fairy King. It's not the king of fairies. He's not a king of the fairies. He's just the fairy king. And there's not that many things with fairies in this book, even though it's trying to say that it's about fairies. Anyways, I would suggest Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies does a lot more, because I'm so sorry. I cannot get heated. Also, Effie wants to learn about literature and wants to like look into this author's stuff, right? Emily Wilde does a lot more with literature and folklore and fairies than this book does. If you want to have, history and stories affecting the country, and how this one author supports the country's like claim to power or whatever, The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, also really great book about how one story can affect a country, much better implemented than this one. Gothic setting, the setting that I was talking about, it was pretty good. It's a crumbling banner. It felt very gothic, and it was trying to go for that gothic feeling. I feel like Ava Reid's other book, Lady Macbeth, as I said, accomplishes that gothic feeling a lot more. I think that also it's trying to pull ideas from Wuthering Heights, but I've not read or watched Wuthering Heights, so I can't really say anything about that, but I could see maybe some influence there as well. And I will say the setting, the architecture, the crumbling manor, has a leg up because it's very wet, watery, imagery, storms and flooding and stuff like that. I think that added some, the drowning aspect pretty good. I like that. I can't really think of any gothic setting that uses water like this. So if you know of any that are better than this, please let me know. But like Acceptance by Jeff Vandermeer, the entire Southern Reach trilogy has watery stuff that's somewhat similar. So I will say that water gothicness is unique and good. That's the point 25. But otherwise, I just did not really enjoy it. Also, oh my god, I didn't even mention, Effie is such a character that is like, everything bad happens to her all the time. And it's just to make us want her to have something good. But her own actions, her own doing, she doesn't do anything to make us want to like her. Everything happens to her. And I feel like that's a flawed way to start a character, a flawed way to build a character, because everything bad that could ever happens to her. And it's not through her own actions. And so it doesn't feel good whenever good things happen to her, because now it just feels like they're just giving it to her to feel nice. I don't know. It's like, kick the puppy or save the puppy, but she's the puppy. You know what I mean? So yeah, I did not enjoy this book. It was a slog to get through, and I will not be continuing the series. It was a duology, and then like a side book or something like that. I'm not fully sure. But either way, I might read other Ava Reid. There's that she has a different series that's young adult fantasy. Not fully sure what it's called, but it has the two women on the front, the two girls on the front. If I get my hands on that, maybe I'll read it. But for now, I'm happy with Lady Macbeth. The next book that I read in the month of January is August of the People by V.F. Aubrey. This is a 4 out of 5. It's a really great science fiction. It's also, I believe, a debut novel and independently published indie novel. And so this is about August, the main character, who lives in a post-apocalypse nomadic tribe. And he's like 19, 20 years old, and he's learning how to hunt people. And all of a sudden, his community encounters two strangers who say that there's a incoming danger, and he's tasked to escort them back to their community and learn about the dangers that are happening. When I first started this, I expected it to be very streamlined, very not one-dimensional, but one-directional. I thought it was just going to be within August and his travel through the forest with a simple plot, a simple character, which is not bad. I think that's a good start. However, it is a simple plot. I've seen this type of plot before. However, there are a lot of complex interactions that I really enjoyed. And once we learn more about the world, also the world building, amazing. Really cool world building. Some of the most unique sci-fi world building I've ever seen. This being a debut, I'm like, this is such a strong debut. Complex interactions, right. Once we learn more about other communities, other people, other agendas between groups of people, between individuals, between why the world died, why is it a post-apocalypse and now, really good. Complexity is the term I'm trying to say. That's it. And I found it felt very similar to like Game of Thrones, honestly. The way that the characters interact, I would say in a smaller scale than Game of Thrones, but the one character learns something that the other character must understand but can't know, and the lack of communication between them, the space that they have to traverse. Because this is in North America, I don't know enough about geography to know if this was alluding to specific locations in North America, but it's in North America at least. It was a really great story, and August himself is a simple and good character. He learns a lot and grows a lot, and he becomes sort of like this. I wouldn't say Messiah, or I wouldn't. It's not. He's not. What's the guy in Dune? I'm so sorry. I never watched Dune. Anyways, he's not a chosen one. He's not a main. He is the main character. Sorry. Thoughts. He definitely becomes the center point of the story, and I really enjoy that because he is a character stand. He's an audience stand-in, and it's really well established who he is and what he wants and how he learned and how he grows and stuff like that. Really strong debut, really strong character, amazing world building. I do not want to spoil it, but it's some of the best world building most unique, interesting, new, never before seen world building. So highly recommend if you like what is it? Cro-Magnon stories. The Earth of the past brought back a lot of extinct animals such as the saber-toothed tiger, mammoths, etc. Honestly, that's what I was missing. I wanted more of the like megafauna. There was good moments of the megafauna, but I needed more of it. Like the saber-tooth tiger only really appeared in the last like 20 pages, and I wanted more of that. So I will be continuing with the second book whenever it comes out. I think it was announced in the book. It says it was supposed to come out last February. And then maybe the second book's coming out this February. I'm not fully sure, but trust that I will be reading it. The last book that I read in the month of January was A Game in Yellow by Hailey Piper. This is a 4.5 out of 5. This is a recommendation from Steph over at Coffee Over Apples. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for telling me about this book because it's so good. It is it's a lot. Okay, so this is about lesbian lovers who are in a BDSM relationship who encounter the story of the King in Yellow, which the King in Yellow, if you are not familiar, is a foundational cosmic horror icon written by Robert Chambers, which I've read and I want to reread it. The collection of short stories. I read it like a few years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, and I thought they were fine, but most of the iterations of the King in Yellow that I've consumed since then have been amazing. I mean, in terms of it's better than the original. And this is one of them. The main one I think about is Malevolent, which is a horror podcast, which I will be making videos about sometime soon because I'm almost finishing it. But the King in Yellow is a story in the world. This is a story that you read and you go insane. And so the women, Carmen and Blanca, Carmen is missing something from her BDSM play. She's the submissive. And Blanca, her lover, is trying to find what she wants, what she needs to be able to let go, to get in that subspace, to enjoy having sex. And it's so good. They encounter this other woman who has a copy of The King in Yellow, which is a play. It's the play that you read that makes you go insane. And Carmen, whenever she reads a page of it, it makes her brain go woozy and crazy, and then they have hot sex. And so I really enjoy. There's a lot of levels here. I really enjoyed the BDSM, the queer themes. Carmen and Blanca have such a strong relationship and strong connection that I never worried that they were going to end. Like, they themselves worry that they're going to break up, that they're going to be separated. But spoiler alert, they don't. But I was never worried that they were going to split. They're that sort of connection that I could see it within that story. And then also they bring in this third woman as a third in their relationship. And usually with these types of stories about bringing a third into a relationship, it really causes strong conflict, and also sometimes paints this throuple polyamory as in a bad light. And here it's not. The bad thing is the King in Yellow, right? And that's what the focus on, which I really enjoy. The other level of like the actual cosmic horror of the King in Yellow was really good as well. It was very subtle with it, and it was very internal within Carmen. It sticks within Carmen's point of view the entire time, and you can really see the book actually manipulating her and changing and shifting, and that was really fun. It was really fun to see what I recognized from Malevolent in this book as well. And then the other level of just the actual horror of it was good. I wanted more. I wanted more spectacle. I wanted more gore. It's not the kind of story to do that. If I want some gore, I'll read something else. But this is more psychological. This is more like subtle horror than like actual like horror. But there are moments in this book, I would say, that should lend itself to some more spectacles of horror, and it didn't deliver in that, unfortunately. But I think the other levels of the personal connection and then like the actual like book, the play itself, deliver in what it wants and what I want. And so it's better on that side than on like spectacle side. That's fine for me. And yeah, no, this was a great horror novel. And I apparently Hailey Pepper's written other horror novels as well. So I will probably look into that, into her other stuff as well. But yeah, a really great adaptation of The King in Yellow. Also highly recommend Malevolent. I don't recommend reading Robert Chambers. It's not that amazing. It's fine. It's fine. All right, and that is all of the books that I read in the month of January. 12 books, I believe. Two of which are library books that I've already returned. But I would say a good reading month. I will say that I don't know. Yeah, I will say the first half probably not as fun, but the library books that I had were highlights, and then it's varied. It's good. It's a good month. I had a really good time. Currently, I am rereading. Sorry, The Three Body Problem by Cixin Liu, translated by Ken Liu. I had read this a few years ago, 2023, and I liked it. I didn't want at that time. I did not want to continue the series, and then I saw that it got adapted into a TV show on Netflix that I heard is pretty good, and then I think someone else is reading. I don't. Someone on YouTube, I think, is also reading the series at the same time, and so that's what inspired me to want to read it. Also, I had finished the Murderbot Diaries, and so the next sci-fi book that I want to read is series is The Three Body Problem. I want to finish this series. I've not read the second or third books, and I want to continue reading the series as well. So that will be something that I will continue as well. I will be talking about this in the February wrap up, so keep an eye out for that when I get to it. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I want to talk about. Yeah, say goodbye, Unger. And Figment can't talk. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to be passionate. And I'll see you later.